Alright everybody, welcome to RetroYuuki Gaming News. We are going to get started in just a moment. Hopefully you guys are having a very good day wherever it may be. I am just making sure that all the stream sources are live, including Kick. Because we are also live on Kick. Making sure I can read your comments and stuff, especially today. Because it's our multi-stream on Kick, YouTube, and Facebook for this evening. So the Kick channel is not showing up on chat for whatever reason. Let me just check one thing. Oh, because I didn't activate the source. Hold on. The source was not even activated. There we go. Now we're good. Alright. So we are gonna get started with gaming news. Hopefully you guys are having a very good day. Where we may be, we're gonna get started right in a moment. Hopefully today's question of the day is, what do you guys think of what Nintendo is doing? Yeah, Nintendo is in hot trouble. Hot water, ladies and gentlemen. So let's get into the news when we have some breaking news to get started with for this first one. And it's a big one when it comes to what's been going on with Nintendo. And this is a story of how the FBI is starting to seize Nintendo Switch piracy sites, i.e. where you can get the games for free. What's going on, Jimmy? I see you there on Facebook. What's up, E? You may be wondering, where are the headphones for the microphone? I'm using the Elgato Wave Neo this evening. So the FBI has started to seize major Nintendo Switch piracy website as we get closer to the Nintendo Switch 2. I've been good, Jimmy. Been working on a lot of content, especially here on the YouTube and Facebook side. We're gonna do a lot more new stuff. I'm using a new software called Meld Studio as well. So if you guys have any questions, let me know. So Nintendo Switch 2 recently launched, and it's been a very rough launch. Not to say less words. So a major website, that is from IGN, a major website hosting pirate copies of Nintendo Switch games has been shut down by the FBI. Now, instead of illegally copied games, the notorious NSW2U.com hosting a single image offering a warning message from the FBI, acknowledging the domain has been seized. The move is the latest in string of anti-piracy efforts surrounding Nintendo games this year, and follows Nintendo itself taking action and permanently breaking new Switch 2 consoles that use piracy-enabling flashcard device. That includes the MIG Switch, a very common device for those who use games and do games when it comes to Nintendo Switch 2. Now you may be wondering, why is this a big story? This is a big story because in recent weeks, very recent weeks, Nintendo has been doing anti-piracy stuff where you cannot even play used games on Nintendo Switch 2, and this is the latest because now people want to play their games on the Switch 2 because it's backwards compatible. But what they want you to do is basically upgrade your stuff. That's what they want you to do. All right. And I want to remind you guys, last week on Kick and YouTube, we covered how Nintendo is challenged by Brazil with the EULA, End User License Agreement, where they challenged it because they believe it's not a good practice. The domain has been seized by the Federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI. The statement now visible on the SSW2U.com reads, in accordance with the seizure warrant pursued paren 218 USC 2323 issued by United States District Court for the Northern District of Georgia as part of a law enforcement operation and action by the FBI and Fiscal Information and Investigation Service. The latter investigation, the FIOD, was a Dutch government agency that investigates financial crimes, suggesting that Nintendo has ties to the Netherlands. Various European countries have previously blocked access to NSW2U.com after it has been added to EU blacklist in May. Now, the site is seemingly gone for good. IGN has contacted Nintendo for more information and details on the website's closure and any next steps against those behind its operation. Nintendo has long waged a war on those who enable privacy on its video games and sought high-profile fines and even prison sentences for those involved. But the company's most recent approach of breaking Switch 2 consoles from accessing the majority of features has raised eyebrows, with concerns around the impact of this tactic on second-hand customers, and even a legal challenge from Brazilian authority, which believes Nintendo has overreached. And we talked about last time, where Nintendo is overreaching what they have been doing. What they've been doing, basically, in recent times, is Brazil has challenged the EULA because they believe it's against their philosophy of law for gaming. Okay, so we talked about that last week in last week's gaming news. Make sure you guys check that out when I put that video up. It is a big one where we talked about it a little bit more in depth in that department. Now, why is this important to understand? This is important to understand because in recent times, a lot of people have been thinking about boycotting Nintendo, especially with $80 games and the bricking of consoles, especially nowadays. It's been going on for a few weeks, but a few weeks ago when I started doing gaming news again, we talked about how it's crucial this moment, this particular period in time, it's going to be a critical time for Nintendo as we approach the holiday season. Once we get to the holiday season, it's going to get a little bit more nasty because the ROG Ally X from Xbox is coming out, and we know how Xbox does. It's been on a good track. Even though there's some misses and hits and misses, they've been on a good track in very recent time. Now, let's go from Nintendo. We're going to go from Nintendo now all the way to a new rumor about Square Enix, where they are trying to actually remake a game. Now, is it the one we are talking about? No. It's not the one we have been looking forward to. Final Fantasy IX, I'm looking at you. But it is a Dragon Quest game. So this is coming to us from My Nintendo News. And here is the rumor of question. So Square Enix is apparently developing a Dragon Quest VII remake for 2026, next year. So if you guys do not know, Dragon Quest is like, it's a big RPG in Japan, and it just came in here. Actually, it was called Dragon Warrior before they called it Dragon Quest. So here we go with the article. The next Dragon Quest game from Square Enix is looking to give a remake treatment is the PlayStation 1 title Dragon Quest VII. The information comes from MP First, who claim, in quotation marks, that they have seen internal documents related to the Japanese company. Dragon Quest VII Remake, if it's legitimate, is currently targeting an early 2026 release next year. There was no mention in the report of the eagerly awaited Dragon Quest 11, that is 12, excuse me, which was first announced in May 2021. Square Enix has been notably silently regarding that particular title. Now, it's a short article, but I want to emphasize something. This is a rumor that you have to be taken with a grain of salt. Okay? A grain of salt. Actually, 5 grains of salt. Because the way that I look at this is that, okay, we've been on this road before. We know what this road is like when it comes to rumors and silence. Okay? So the big thing here is the fact that, okay, we're looking at a rumor remake, right? And we know that there is another game that has been on the rumor block for a while. That game being Final Fantasy IX. And just recently, on July 7, 2025, we were thinking that they will announce it by then because that's their anniversary, 25th anniversary of the game being launched, July 7, 2000. That was my very first Final Fantasy game. And by the way, I am still planning to play that this year to honor the 25th anniversary. We're going to be playing it a little bit differently though. We're going to be playing the Freya mod. I like her as a character, that's why. Anyway, what it boils down to in terms of this rumor, we know what rumors mean. It's going to get everybody involved, where everybody wants to talk, oh, it's going to come out this day because of this detail, or this day or that detail. So it's really going to be a very interesting time in 2026. The question is, will it be true? Because there's a rumor right now, and we do not know. From Dragon Quest rumors to skateboarding, we are now going to talk about the next story on the board, which is Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 and 4. Because this game recently came out, or is about to start going off, and we have a little bit of a snag actually for this game. It's off to a slow start on Steam. Now, this game is actually part of Wave 1 of the Xbox Game Pass for July, which we will talk about in our next part of this show. That's the next story. I'm going to bridge it. So, Tony Hawk, Pro Skater 3 and 4. 7.5 out of 10. That's not a bad game. Now, let's take a look at the story. This is coming to us from Game Rant, and written by Daniel Morris. So, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 plus 4, or 3 and 4, has gotten off to quite a slow start on Steam in a couple of respects. Although it seems like though there are pretty good reason, there has been a plenty of hype for the game, but the Steam player count and reviews haven't quite been the Iron Galaxy Studios may have hoped for. Now we get it. Sometimes it does happen. The 2020 Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 plus 2 remake was met with stellar reviews from critics, amassing an impressive 89 top critic average over a review aggregator site OpenCritic. It was a great reintroduction to the series for potential new players, and the success of the first collection undoubtedly helped the hype and anticipation for Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 and 4. The release in 3 and 4 faced some unfortunate pre-release controversy, such as controversial changes made to Pro Skater 4's career mode, or whether Bam Margera would appear or not. So that's another person in the game. Initially reported by The Gamer, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 and 4 has failed to make a huge splash on Steam, with a $50 title debuting at a peak of 2,214 concurrent players on the platform. This is still an improvement over Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2, peak concurrent count of 1,804, but that title only launched on Steam 3 years after its initial release. There seems to be a good reason for low player counts though. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 Plus 4 launched on day 1 on Game Pass, which the PC tier of the subscription service included. This means that some gamers interested in the title will simply have decided to download it as part of the subscription rather than paying $50 on release day. So if you have a subscription to Game Pass, you can actually download the game with that subscription. And I'm gonna tell you, I think it's gonna be really interesting. Good, what's going on, Green? It's gonna be really interesting to see what transpires in the next couple of months. Okay, so now let's talk about why it could be because of Game Pass. Let's have a read on the next part of this article. It's not just player count that's struggling on Steam. Despite Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 and 4 getting strong reviews from critics, players on Steam seems to be less impressed. The game currently has a mixed Steam rating of 68%, our community reviews being positive. A look through the negative review indicates that the huge changes to Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 and 4 are to blame for the current sentiment, meaning issues aren't necessarily PC specific. It's interesting to see how the popularity of skateboarding game genre comes and goes in waves. It's currently enjoying a resurgence, with the Tony Hawk's Pro Skater series returning in recent years. Session Skate Sim offering a fresh perspective on the genre, and a new skate game is set to early access later this year. Fans have plenty of options. It's a great time to be hopping on the skateboarding genre. So right now it's 7.5 out of 10 on the game here. Not too bad. Here's my take on this. It's been a while since I got to play. It's been a while since I got to play a skateboarding game. Believe it or not. I remember the time when I would play Tony Hawk. Seriously, way back in the day. Back in the day, we were flipping kick flips and ollies on GameCube. I got Tony Hawk's Underground. Love that game. I might play that again live, just because it's a very good game genre. And yeah, but with this one, it's kind of a mixed bag. So we're gonna have to see what we have. Speaking of Xbox Game Pass, that's our next story. We're gonna talk about now the Wave 2, July 2025, and here we go. This is coming to us from IGN. That is the Wave 2 lineup. If you want to see the Wave 1 lineup, I have a video for you guys coming up this week. I covered this last week. So Wave 2, this is the new one. This is written by Tom Phillips. Microsoft has announced the Wave 2 of Xbox Game Pass to July 2025 lineup, which includes the launch of Grounded 2 on Xbox Game Preview, Wu Chang, Fallen Feathers, and more. So here are some of the games coming up. July 15, High on Life, Cloud, console and PC. Across the Ultimate, as well as RoboCop Rogue City on the 17th. And also we have My Friendly Neighborhood on the 17th. We have Black Back to the Dawn on the 18th. Uh, Abotic Factor on the 22nd. Wheel World on the 23rd. Real World on the 23rd. We also have Fallen Feathers Wuchang, the RPG Souls-like, on the 24th. Obsidian's Garden Grounded 2, which is going to be on the 29th. So those are the games coming up for Game Pass. And here's the list of those games on the board, including Farming Simulator, August the 1st. So that will be August wave 1, technically speaking. But be very careful because these games are coming. The following games are going. We have Gigantic Kitsugami, Path of the Goddess, and Turnip Boy Robs a Bank. Those 3 games are leaving on the 31st, so make sure you guys get them before they leave Game Pass on the 31st of July. Okay, so that they can make room for the new games. Alright? Now, let's talk about what I think of those games. Those games look good. Not gonna cap. Those games look very good to play right now. Excuse me. It's very good. Good selection. I think we have a good selection there. I remember playing High on Life. That game is funny. It's basically a game. Voice actors of Rick and Morty, that TV show on Cartoon Network at night. So if you enjoy Rick and Morty, you're gonna hear their voice actors in High on Life. They're pretty funny. It's a pretty funny game. I remember playing it. Now, from those games, we are having the interesting story of the day. This story, I picked it out because I think it's a really interesting read. Okay, so that's why it's in green on the layout. So it's time for the interesting story of the day. And this is talking about indie games. In particular, we'll be talking about Stardew Valley and how other games coming up are trying to stay afloat with the success of Stardew Valley. But is it working? So here we go. This article is going to be from CBR, although I found it on MSN. So this is by Matthew Evans 5 days ago. So it's the end of the era for Stardew Valley and indie games, according to Matthew Evans. When Stardew Valley was released in 2016, it was an explosive success, and the popularity has only grown since. It recently became top-rated game on Steam, surpassing Portal 2, and the player count that continues to rise. Stardew Valley wasn't the first indie success story, but it just demonstrated how successful an indie title could be. So yeah, it actually is a very good game. I actually got to play this, and it's very fun. Unfortunately, most indie games haven't come close to reaching that level of success. The indie market is far more saturated than it was at the time of Stardew Valley's launch, and that makes it harder for new games to find an audience. Stardew Valley is entering an exciting new era, but many other indie titles are being left behind. Okay. It was mid to late 2000s, the so-called indie boom began to be observed. Titles such as Braid, World of Goo, and Castle Crashers were released not by major studios but by small teams and even lore creators driven more by artistic vision than market trends. The indie boom carried on to the 2010s, with Stardew Valley becoming one of the best selling games of all time. And remember, it's an indie game. Stardew Valley was originally approved for Steam release on Steam through the now defunct Greenlight program, which allowed indie developers to submit information about their games onto Steam. Users could vote on Greenlight games they wanted to see on the Steam marketplace, with only the most popular being approved. While this method worked for Stardew Valley, many other indie games didn't make it through the green light, and Steam did away with the program in 2017. Okay, so green light, I remember looking at it. I'm like, let's try it. I'm like, no, it didn't work for me. Greenlight was replaced with Steam Direct, which allowed any game to be released on the Steam marketplace as long as it matched with the description on the store page and didn't contain any merciless content. The change opened new doors for indie developers, making it easier ever to reach an audience. Unfortunately, this shift also led to an oversaturated market. In 2024, more than 8,000 indie games were released on Steam, and thousands more have already been released this year in 2025. On top of that, the financial landscape has also undergone a transformation. While crowdfunding has once been hailed as a viable alternative to the traditional funding models, platformers such as Kickstarter and Indiegogo have seen significant declines in user trust and participation. High-profile failures and overpromised features have led to disillusionment across gaming, and support for many indie games has shifted elsewhere or vanished altogether. And this is correct. This is actually true. There's actually a court case that went on because of this. So what happened was, in that court case, there was a big indie game. There was an indie game that was promised, and what happened was that indie game never successfully did the promise of what the game did, and then they kept the money. So they were lawsuited for that money, and they still haven't gotten it back. It was a rough, and that's why a lot of people are now against Kickstarter or like Indiegogo or anything where you can crowdfund games, because their trust feature has been going down because of that idea. Because of what's been going on with the world of gaming and crowdfunding. Let's continue. The article continues with this. The gaming festivals and showcases that were once designed to celebrate indie craftsmanship have undergone their own metamorphosis. PAX, Insomnia, and E3, once celebrated as welcoming spaces for small creators, have become prohibitively expensive, in both terms of booth presence and travel expenses. Indie Mega Boot, a once thriving collective effort to spotlight small games, was shut down during the COVID-19 pandemic and has yet to be fully resurrected. New games are being released every day, but many great titles are going completely unnoticed. Gamers would rather stick with Stardew Valley. Stardew Valley's player count has only gotten bigger with time. And I will tell you, I'm one of those players, although I haven't played it for a while. Even though Stardew Valley was ignored during the 2024 award season, players were treated to a wealth of new content, with the 1.6 update being the biggest update so far. Stardew Valley reached its highest player count into last year and experienced a new player surge on July 6, hitting a 24-hour peak of 157,000 851, which is significantly higher than any new releases. Stardew Valley's continued success means players aren't necessarily looking for a new indie game. Many are content to stick with Stardew Valley and enjoys its many free updates. Thanks to a wide range of mods, players can customize their Stardew Valley experience and make the game feel new again. The steady stream of free updates has been a fantastic gift for Stardew Valley players, but it also means indie developers don't just have to compete with new releases, they have to make their games stand out from existing titles as well. And yes, that is a very hard ask. That's very difficult to do. It's not easy. You have to find a way to stand out in the indie game market because games nowadays, you have to stand out. It's not easy. Definitely not an easy process. Okay. Things might look bleak for indie games, but there's still been plenty of success stories in recent years. Among Us was initially released in 2018, but exploded in 2020. Now, obviously, that's because of the pandemic. And kick started a new social deduction game trend. More recently, a poker-style roguelike Balatro was one of the biggest success stories in 2024, selling more than 5 million copies and winning numerous awards. That's that poker-looking like game thingy. There are always plenty of indie games on the horizon. There could be huge hits. Stardew Valley developer Concerned Ape is hard at work on his next title, Haunted Chocolatier. Cozy Magic Sim Witch Book looks like it appealed to Stardew Valley and Harry Potter fans. And popular early access titles like Fields of Mistra and Hades 2 will get an official release before long. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Okay. What is being witnessed is not the end of indie games themselves. Small teams will continue to make games, and platforms like It's.io will remain repositories for creativity and subversion. What remains is a space that still holds potential, but one in which fewer and fewer are able to thrive, and even fewer are able to endure. There might not be another indie game that will reach the Stardew Valley levels of success, but there are still plenty of future hits on the horizon. And I agree. There are going to be those future hits that are going to be on the horizon. You just have to find the game that is for you. If you find a game that is for you, you're going to go far with the game that you like. Not easy, but you just have to find out what's the game that you like or what's the genre, and you're gonna have some success. Okay, so don't give up on, oh, just because it's Stardew Valley you're not gonna be able to compete with Stardew Valley. No, don't. What you want to do is go for something that is going to stand out. And with that being said, it's time to introduce our upcoming new segment, the Social Gaming Corner, Tweets of the News. Here's how this segment is going to work when we start doing it. I am going to go to my Twitter, my little Twitter here, and then what's going to happen is I am going to read gaming news based on the Twitter. So, now it's not going to start today. Excuse me. It's not going to actually start today, but if I find something that's interesting to cover, gaming news wise on Twitter, I will cover it. And